Good morning, everybody. It is a nice, somewhat cool, overcast morning here in Ellabell, Georgia. We're at the home of Scott and Dominique Elliott, and we are going to do a little live tour of this incredible garden. We're starting off here at his display beds, where he has grown out all of his introductions. It surrounds the pool, as you can see. We're going to walk around all of the display beds, and we'll go out to his growing fields, where we will catch up with Scott and our awards chair, Rhonda Verhoeven, who they're out there looking at some seedlings, seeing the things as they're fresh and clean and open. There's actually a big planting of Darth Deciduous. It's a very desirable, small, and dark daylily. If any of you are not familiar with Scott Elliott's daylilies, he especially likes to grow plants that are going to do well in shows. Exhibition shows are a place that he spends a lot of time and has a passion for it. And so he is looking for plants that are going to perform consistently, that are going to have nice branching, some excellent bud count, and that are going to put on a really nice display for those shows especially. Here, just a sneak peek, that's his growing fields, where he has seedlings and his introductions all lined out and ready for sales. We were here yesterday, kind of hanging out, spending some time here in the area, and we also helped to live head this garden yesterday, and it was pouring down rain. That's not the most exciting thing to do, in case you haven't done it before. As I mentioned yesterday, I'm a huge fan of doubles, and that's a double unusual form, Yumi and Bob. That's a monster. I'm a big guy. There it is against my hand, just to give you a frame of reference. Good morning to everyone who has joined already. Hopefully you're in Eastern time zone and not waking up before the crack of dawn to stream from the West Coast. That would be extreme in my mind. Here's another clump of Darth Deciduous. If you can see just how dark that is, that eye zone is super dark. The temperature is probably a little bit cooler here this morning than what it might be in a normal spring and summer. The growers around here have said that this season has been much more wet and much more cool than they're accustomed to, and so the daylilies respond accordingly. A lot of the scapes are shorter than they want them to be. Sometimes the blooms are not exactly what they have been over the last few years, but it's still quite a show. Thanks for joining, Vicky. Good morning, Linda. So we are still looking at the display beds of all the Scott Elliott and Dominique Elliott introductions. Morning, Joyce. If you tuned in yesterday to the Joiner's Garden, that's only about 10 miles, maybe 15-minute drive away from here. And if you saw all the rain that was coming down while we were streaming live, you know. You know that this is a blessing, that's for sure. That gets us to the end of the display beds here. And so we're going to walk on out to the growing fields. Maybe you can see Scott out there. He's behind a tree right now, but there he is. He does have hummingbirds. One just flew away as I got close here. Lots of nature, lots of pollinators. Some people may not know that Scott and Dominique also do a lot of hydrangeas. They grow a lot and They have many potted up and ready for sale. That's their hydrangea field over there. Lots of unique things that I'm not familiar with. It was really cool to walk through there yesterday afternoon and just see the different varieties. This bed here starts off with some seedlings, some select seedlings that he's been looking at, evaluating, probably getting closer to introduction. And this is something that I really enjoy. I don't know, I guess we all have our preference when we come to a garden, but these are his line-out beds. So these are the plants that he's introduced that are available to sell. But when you see a massive clump of all the same thing, all neat and tidy in a row, it's really fun to just see how consistent these blooms can really be. There's Scott. If you've heard Scott speak before, you'll know that he installed a 10-foot tall, I think it's 10 foot tall, deer fence around the perimeter of his garden here. He's situated back in the woods a little bit, and so having the deer fence is critical to keep the deer out. And then of course, as they get close and come for a snack, he's able to snag a few every year, and in that way he has some food. Puts it in the freezer. It would be a buffet for the deer, yes, that's for sure. And he tells stories about how bad it was before he put that fence up. They also have a lot of wild hogs out here, he says, and so the fence helps to keep those buggers out too. But coming from Illinois, we don't have armadillos. That's not a thing where I come from. And so as we were live heading yesterday, we had to watch out for armadillo burrows or dens as they dig holes and hunker down. Avoid a little mud here. That's what I hear, Sharon, that the hogs are really destructive, but I don't live anywhere near them, luckily, so I am not aware. Let's go back towards some of the seedling beds. That's where we can see some pretty unique things that perhaps we haven't seen before. Every now and again back here, they have some pollinator patches where they're growing some other plants that are a little more interesting for the butterflies and the bees along the fence there. These are some brand new seedlings that he's just planted this year. And what amazes me is how quickly they grow. Of course, coming from the north, we don't have as long of a growing season, so that's a lot of it. But this patch right here that we're going to look at, between the row I'm walking down and the aisle over there, is all seedlings. And if I remember correctly, these were all ones that have bloomed once before, 1 year before. No, I'm sorry, these are the first blooms. These are first bloom seedlings. Here's a Very light pastel yellow, unusual form here, with a nice green throat. How about this little guy? A smaller, unusual form. Some of these are a little bit tall too. There's a double form there. I know yesterday while we were live heading, we saw a lot of really interesting things in here. If you hear me swatting mosquitoes, know that there's quite a few out here, that's for sure. That's a neat one. Nice contrasting eye with some peaks there going on the midribs. On that nice soft yellow. Like I said, it's kind of a cooler morning, so some of the flowers are just not quite opening up all the way. Here's some really little guys. Again, for reference, I'm a fairly large person, and there's my hand against this flower. That's little. That's little. But then, as I mentioned earlier, Scott really goes for show quality. Do you see that scape? See the branching on that guy, the bud count? That's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. How about this little miniature? Look at it right out of the ground. See if I can get a decent look here. See how little he is compared to all the plants around him. That can make a really neat landscape border. Some real vibrant purples. I have my eye out especially for some of the things I saw yesterday, wanting to show you again, but I'm afraid that this bloom day is just not, being that they're seedlings and there's just, you know, one or two fans of each one or two scapes. I'm afraid we're not going to see some of the ones that I really was drawn to yesterday. This is a neat bitone there. It's probably a 3.5 or 4 inch flower. Good morning, Pat. Lots of daylily friends we wish we could have in the garden with us, should the circumstances be slightly different. All of the plants here are meticulously labeled too. Good morning to Argentina. This is a pretty big flower here. I'd probably guess that it's going to come in at 6.5 to 7 inches. Again, my hand for reference, that's a pretty big guy. This little patch here is specifically the hybridizing efforts of Dominique Elliott. Thanks for joining, Marion. Here's some guest plants. These are ones you probably recognize, or maybe even grow them. Let's see what's what's blooming today. Roswitha, a nice Miniature double there. There's a little shorty. Just for breakfast. He's putting on a nice show today. This one over here is Viva Glam Girl. I hear a lot about this one and how difficult it is to get. That's a pretty one, Viva Glam Girl there. Good morning, Kirsten. Pepperoni Man. There's the tag for Pepperoni Man, and here's the flower blooming over here on the backside. Nice small. This one is Star Asterisk. Again on the backside away from its tag, but blooming nicely today. Over here we have Azure Wings. A lot of these are opening on the back, so I can't really show them with their tags, but there's Azure Wings opening up this morning. This one here is Rainbow Serpent. Here's from Aaron Joyner, Royce and Jan's son. Aaron's dinner plate starting to open up this morning. We saw that yesterday in the garden. It was wider open, so I think today is just a cool morning. Small gesture from Grace DeMillie. Such a delicate little mini flower. King Kahuna. His Sir Blackstem, or Amaracallus Sir Blackstem, is a really neat one. Look at how dark the scapes are and the buds, and then they open up that yellow color. This one was added to my wish list, and it's from 1988. That's an old one. And it's pretty short, pretty small flowers. But that is pretty unique. Pretty cool. Here is Jammin's Little Bitty. Look how crisp that eye zone has, the edge, the darker edge there on that eye zone. That's pretty neat, pretty sharp. Frog's Eye. It's kind of a big, unusual form there. I think I missed one here. Green Derby is this flower here. Good luck, Sharon. Frilly Bliss. There's a wide open pink from Jen Joyner. Here's a really big open form, but I can't see the tag on that guy. It's all covered up by other blooms. Dragonwood Spellbound. Look at the grayness. Here live, it looks a little like a hint of denim blue, but on the camera I don't see the blue as well. Dragonwood Spellbound is the name of that flower. There's some more guest plants across the way. That one is leaning over, trying to get my attention. Let's see if I can read the tag. If I Only Had a Brain, from Harrington. I'm gonna swing over here. These are more seedlings from the Elliots. Good morning to Virginia. Good morning to Michigan. We are in Georgia. I think this is Ladybug Sarah Martin. It's a toothy thing. Pretty large too. And lots of buds still coming on this season. How about Paparazzi Pink by Pat Koechnauer. This one is called Dark Monkey. It's a velvety looking red. That's the Jamie Gossard plant right there. Jackie, I will share your greetings to Scott. He's across the garden, just visiting with another guest. There he is. And good morning to Massachusetts. Here's a Hanson, Mermaid City. Here's a seedling here. It's putting on quite a show. This, I'm told, is a Pat Cochinauer seedling. And I feel like that open form and the colors even fit in rather well with what Scott has going on in his hybridizing program. Pat's Legacy. This was hybridized by Pat Cochinauer and introduced in her memory with the help of Janice Kennedy. Good morning to Nova Scotia as well. This guy putting on a show is Impact on Saturn. Appropriately named. This shorty here is called Vertically Challenged. It's a nice larger flower, just grows really short to the ground. Good morning to everyone who has joined us recently. These are all the guest plants that were submitted for display here. A lot of times these guest plants were brought in to help garden judges see more varieties, see more plants in a garden that may otherwise be focused on one thing or just a few things. And so for national conventions, these guest plants are sent in so garden judges have more opportunities. These are seedlings here by Scott Elliott. Pretty crazy things going on. There's two blooms blooming side by side. That's a pretty neat view there. Green Inferno. That's a popular one by Jamie Gossard. Good morning to Canada. We are having quite a few international members from outside the United States joining in today, which is really exciting. A lot of times the national conventions are mostly people who live in the United States, so it's fun to see you all joining us and getting able to participate this way. We'll have to try more of this. Keep everybody involved. Greetings to Denver, Colorado. There was Scott there in the background. I mentioned earlier that seeing the mass plantings are exciting to me. This bed here that we're walking by, all the way down there, that's all seedlings again. But these plants, these are all, in the view you can see two different varieties, two cultivars there. And these were all planted as guest plants for those who were able to make it to the national convention. And since we didn't have a national convention, these are going to be dug up this afternoon and shipped to Hattiesburg for next year's national convention as gift plants to those who are able to attend. So if you haven't considered it, you may look at the 2021 calendar and see if you want to make it to Hattiesburg, Mississippi for the national convention. But that just mass planting is so neat to see. I wish I had the space in my garden to do something like that. That is just neat. So this first one that we saw, this is Scott's Ruth Gets It Done. Kind of an open form there. This next one, the tag is on the far end away from me here. I see it now, it's called Mayel. It's a nice double. But if you look, there's a scape you can see with all the different branches and all the buds. Even the ones that have already been blooming. Look at those scapes. That's gonna put on a show day after day after day in your garden, that's for sure. This one is a little earlier. I believe it's called Lily Bloom, but the tag again is on the far side. But all these green plants that don't have many blooms, those are all Lily Bloom. Good morning, Janice. Wish you were here too. I could wrangle some Coach now or cultivars from you. This is another one. I believe this is Tim Harrington. In Illinois, this one grows so well in my garden too. And it looks just like that every time. Just like that. So pretty. Again, another mass planting. And the tag's on the far side, so I'll have to walk down there to tell you what this one is. Good morning to Tennessee. Good morning, Region 10. This is a seedling. I just can't stop looking at it. That to me is just so fun. It's so different than so many of our classic daylilies. Here's another one. All those extra petals. Hey, there's Hattiesburg. We'll see you next year. We will be there. Judy, your question about live heading yesterday. We spent 2 hours. It was 2 solid hours in the pouring down rain, which was fun. And let's see. There were either 7 or 8 of us, I think. I think we decided it took about 16 man hours to get it all done. Good morning to Arkansas. I see the tag now for this planting here. This is Dietmar's Wisdom. That's a Dominique Elliott introduction. She was telling the story yesterday. She's teaching. She's a college instructor, so she's on her Zoom meetings doing her classes. But she talked about how one of her mentors in her education, professionally, was always very consistent and always very precise. He dressed the same way every day, and everything was just so perfect. And when this flower came up and she was growing it and evaluating it, it always seemed to be just so perfect. And so she named it after him as homage to his eye for perfection and consistency. Here's some of Dominique's seedlings here. I'm going to reach way in. That one there could almost be a bitone with that soft edge on the sepal. That to me is really neat. Very pretty. Good morning to my friend Penny. Good morning to southeastern Missouri too. Hi Chris in New York. This one here that's lined out is depends on the weather. It's either a double or a single. Depends on the weather. And then some vegetables. Good morning to Mr. Darrell as well. Back behind the rooster is a frog pond. Well, a pond in general, but yesterday was rather loud with frog noises. I'm glad for our live stream today the frogs are probably still asleep. I've seen the back of a lot of blooms here in the seedling bed. Okay, I am holding my phone chest high. I'm 6'1". That's a tall scape. That is a really tall scape. That's a monster. These are seedlings, and I believe these are all Dominique Elliott seedlings here in the first section. That dark eye makes me think that Darth Sidious is probably a relative, either a sibling or a parent, or they come from a similar line. That's really dark. It's so pretty. So pretty. Good morning to Marietta, Ohio. These are some more of those guest plants, but I'm on the other side of that row so we can see some of them a little bit better. That flower there appears to be Wild and Wonderful from the Stimilles. Coral Eyeshadow from Ned Roberts. Let's see what other ones I may have missed here. Elmira Buffalo Bone Jackson, that comes from Region 2 from Bob Faulkner. He does a lot with pattern eyes. That's quite a nice zone. Adorable face. Raspberry Ripple Cupcake. I feel like that one's won some awards rather recently. Green Ribbons, that's a very bright yellow with a green eye that comes all the way out there on the petals. Must be where it gets its name, and the sepals. Look at that, green ribbons coming out of that eye zone. That's pretty. Stormy Sky, this is another Aaron Joyner, the son of Jan and Royce that we visited yesterday. Here's a stippled one that's kind of a trendy thing right now, a stippled double called Spotted Fever. It's kind of neat to see how the pigmentation is just not really fully there, but it's consistent on all the different blooms. There's the tag there for people making a wish list. Clyde, if you're virtually here, I hope you're realistically making a wish list. Because that's what we do when we come to these gardens. And then we go home and work an extra job, pick up some extra cash so we can buy all the things that we just can't live without after we go and see all these gardens blooming. So many of these plants are just coming on, it looks like. This one, for example, doesn't look like it's bloomed just yet. So that'll probably be a later bloomer. This one too. So this garden is going to keep going. Today's amazing, but just imagine through the season it's going to keep going. Welcome to Florida, Eileen. Munchkin music. Nice little one. Oh, look at this guy. Little Alabama. There's the tag. And there's the plant. Look at that. Look how little itty bitty that is. That is so tiny. That's neat to see. Just as tiny, you may have detected the movement of a baby frog. A frog the size that would fit in that little flower. How about these seedlings? Look at that. These are second-year seedlings. These are on their last evaluation before they either make it or don't. get thrown out as mulch, compost. So much beauty in here. And a lot of these flowers, while they're beautiful, if they're not up to the standard of the hybridizer, whether that be for bloom size or color, clarity, or branching or bud count, they're just going to go away. And the best ones will survive and continue on, hopefully to be introduced one day. For people who haven't been watching for very long, here's just a sweep of the whole garden back here in the back. Lots and lots and lots of blooms today. Go up that one. Here on my right-hand side, these are some of the line-out beds where when you place an order from Scott online, he'll dig from these beds to ship them to you. And so you can see these mass plantings. Always my favorite, mass plantings. Look at this guy. That's some unique coloring there. That's wackadoodle. Hello to France. Welcome, welcome. And Penny, I will pass that along to Scott. I'll pass that along for sure. How about the vibrance of that orange? Nacho Mama. Look at that guy. Good morning, Texas. I do hope nobody is watching this at work in danger of getting caught by their boss. Because if I was at home, I'd be watching it from work. Look at that mound of one cultivar. The tag is too far away for me to read, but wow. Wow. Scott has a lot of flowers that he has named after his cat Bob, who is no longer with us. And so this one is named Oh Bob. Oh Bob. See if we can find another Bob reference. There are quite a few. This is a much taller one. Let me back up so you can get a reference. Good morning to Canada. So this tall guy here, let's see if I can find the tag. This is Love to Joe Marole. That's a pretty, pretty flower. Wide open, unusual form. This yellow is called Nefarious. I think we're going to get Scott to join us here real quick and see what else he would like to share about his garden. This one is Taco Toomey. Just real quick, good morning, Mr. Scott.
Good morning, everybody.
We are live. We've got people from all over, including Canada and Texas.
Oh.
And they are interested to hear what you have to say of introduction and explanation about your garden. We can walk around and talk, or we can...
Yeah, I want to do it. My garden is mainly seedlings, because that's what I do. We have about 6,000 plants in here, we estimate. And we have 9 beds, all about between 100 and 125 feet long and 12 to 14 feet wide. And out of those 9 beds, 7 of them are seedlings in some stage of development. We plant about 1,000 seedlings a year. That's all we do, and then pick them, just a long process of selecting the best ones and moving them into, continuing along the pipeline to figure out the 12 to 15 we introduce each year.
Only 12 to 15 out of 1,000 seeds each year.
And this one we're looking at here is NA Shucks, named after, we have the famous AW Shucks and the NA Shucks, which most people know that's Tim Harrington and Ken Cobb, and that's their pen names they write underneath those. And that's a fun one. We have a lot of fun naming these things. The emphasis in what I've been doing a lot for the past 25 years is hybridizing for the branching and bud count. It's pretty poor this year overall because we had a lot of cold weather while the scapes were developing. So a lot of the scapes are short and don't have good branching, but there's still some good ones in here.
Still lots of branches and buds.
Yeah.
Lots going on.
Yeah, just not up to our usual, what they would be, but still lots of flowers.
Lots of flowers.
Yeah. A lot of them, and that's what happens. We got our scapes developing and pretty early this year because it was warm, and then we had about 3 weeks of temperatures that were often down in the high 30s and low 40s after the scapes were already partially up, and it really stunted a lot of them. They just didn't form. And so it depended on where they were in their development, where they came out. But as you can see, Jacob's been going around for a while. We like the doubles, unusual forms, and spiders, and we also have been doing a lot of small and minis. Pretty much you're not going to see the big full form bagels here. If there is one in the garden, it's because someone gave it to me and I haven't sold it yet.
Or it's a guest plant.
A guest plant, yeah. That's about it. So we do have some flowers that are in the category of large flower, but they're not what you would, no fancy edges, no fancy eyes, no full form bagel stuff. I like them to be unique, interesting. My big hybridizing goal, and this is hard to do, but the hybridizing goal is to get plants that do not need a name tag, such that you could see it from 20, 30, 50 feet away, and someone could say, oh, that's such and such a plant. And I've been able to do that with a few, and that's very, very difficult with 90-something thousand out there. And so if I can get one like that every year or two, I think that, and I'm really excited about it. That's a hard thing to do.
That's definitely hard.
And we go in like this, beautiful flower, but you'd have to check the name on this one. So this is one you can be a great garden flower, but no one's going to know what name it is until they come up and check it. And I come on to some other ones. If we go around the corner here, I show one that's in development that I'm really excited about the color. And it's one I think that it'll probably get introduced eventually, and I think that you'll be able to say, okay, when people see this, they'll know what it is, because it's a little bit different color. It's just kind of fun.
It's a blend of many colors.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that I really like. And there's a couple other ones down here. And see these right here, these, in fact, where we are right now, these were ones, seedlings that were selected last year. These were, so 2019, they bloomed for the first time, and I selected them, put them in this bed. Generally, to get into this bed, they had to be consistently four-way branching and something interesting. And because of the weather this year, some of them are not doing that, but I already know they can because I saw it last year.
Fiona, you asked what are the names. This one doesn't have a name just yet, but stay tuned because that one may be coming from Scott.
That one probably will. I'm pretty sure.
There are a few though in the garden here, Fiona, that are definitely unmistakable. So we'll walk through some of those again here in a minute.
Okay, I guess we can sneak through here. Yeah. Getting some fun colors. Not quite as unique, but still a fun color. I like that one a lot, and the color on this one is pretty cool. Yeah. Not unique enough that you wouldn't need a name, but also not real common either. You're not going to see that everywhere, especially not at Home Depot. I don't want anything that looks like it could be sold at Home Depot. That's not a good thing. We're going this way?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's where you're working.
Yep.
Had you been on this bed?
Not quite.
Okay. Well, let's just work down this one then. This is the famous sparkle britches.
Chris Peterson was just calling this one out.
Yeah, and that's named after a past president of AHS who happens to live in Illinois and who may be watching right now.
I don't know if she's on yet.
Yeah, that's named after Nikki. For all of you, if you couldn't figure it out, she loves her sparkly stuff and loves to be Nikki. That's why we like her so much. And this one I think I probably named after myself. It's called YB Normal.
There's one bloom facing us here.
And the flowers are different every day. They twist and turn. It's a little cool this morning, and I imagine a couple hours from now it'll be twisting and turning a whole bunch more. And it's always different. But it's
over the top of that guy there. All why be normal? It's a good question.
And then we've gone with the wine, which is, I can see there. This was actually the first achievement medal I got about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. So quite a while back. That was my, I was very excited. I worked for years trying to figure out how to get an achievement medal, and that was the first one I ever got.
And for anyone not familiar, an achievement medal is for showscapes. You'll take 3 of the same flower to a show, and the judges who see it have to independently score it, and it has to mark very high and consistently across all 3 scapes.
Yeah, and that's only for unnamed seedlings. You can't take one that's named already.
So it was something new that he was evaluating, and he saw promise in it and took it to a show, and the judges did too.
And this is Wild Man George, which a lot of you have seen before. It's been in quite a few convention gardens. Got the Ida Munson Award, got an Award of Merit a couple years ago, and actually up for the Stout, which is my first one ever. We're not pushing it here, we're just letting you know. I'm excited about that.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, I didn't know, it's not something you'd ever think you might attain. And so like when it happens, I'm still kind of like, it's really on the ballot? Wow, what happened?
It must be something good.
Yeah, I've paid enough people off, I guess, whatever. But it's just one of those things you're just like, did that really happen? I guess it did.
It's a good performer, it's consistent, it looks great. It grows all over the country. So that's what it needs.
And this is Jumpin' Jan, the spider here. Scapes are really poor on it this year and kind of falling over. I'm not sure. Again, it must be the temperature. But I usually get lots of, this one can go 8 or 10 branches on it and tall and straight. And it's named for Jan Joyner because a couple years ago, she was working in the garden, was trying to step through some of her potted plants and broke her foot. And so we called her Jumpin' Jan after that. Now we're looking at Wissywig. This is another Ida Munson Award winner, and I think I can't remember which one's got the award of merit. I think I got the award of merit last year. I can't remember. HM, no, well, not Wissywig. Wissywig, I think anyway. We're gonna help. I should remember this, but I don't. And one of my favorite flowers. It's hard to describe. It's a huge flower.
It's very big. Here, again, I've been showing my hand with flowers, but
Yeah.
There it is.
For this, oh, okay. The awards and honors chair, she says she just gave me the award of merit for 2019 yesterday. So my memory is so bad that I can't even remember that she gave it to me last night.
Just last night.
Just last night. So yeah, okay.
Thank you, Rhonda, for keeping us straight.
Yeah. So yeah, the Alzheimer's is setting in very quickly here and very seriously.
How many introductions do you have, though?
Oh, about 130, I think.
So keeping track of 130, I don't know.
Well, a lot of people do it. I mean, you should be able, especially if you win something on it, you should be able to remember, but haven't been able to. This is Mayor of Cornatzer.
That's pretty too. Lots of doubles. I like the doubles. I can't lie. I can't pretend.
And this is Sebastian on steroids. We are past peak on this one. And this one also won the Ida Munson Award for the best double and HM, and it's up for a couple other things, yeah.
Sebastian the Crab, which this is a reference to, has also won the Ida Munson, didn't it?
Yes, it did. In fact, the reason it's called Sebastian on steroids is because Jan Joyner, who created Sebastian the Crab, which I was trying to copy, she saw this blooming in my garden for the first time, and she says, wow, that looks like Sebastian on steroids. And so that's how it got its name. And it's way past peak. About a week or so ago, it was a pain to deadhead this thing. It was just, there were probably 75 or 80 blooms right here. So we still got some, but it's
so imagine past peak, right? There's a scape that's all empty, but then there's a scape with all these buds.
Yeah, and again,
look at all that still coming on.
Yeah, and this definitely is below average for the scape. So a lot of you have seen some good scapes, and it does rebloom for me. So I would imagine that in about 3 weeks we'll have some really nice ones. And Saki to me. Again, this is one I like. You can see it's kind of, the scape's a little short this year, but you can see what I like. This is what I like. Extra wide branching, starts way right. I mean, the lateral branches can be easily over foot. And,
that's an insane branching pattern.
Good show flower. I mean, I grow things from show flowers, and Jacob actually uses his hand on the rebloom scape, which is starting out with looks like 5-way branching on it. But
on a rebloom.
Yeah, lots of rebloom. You see them coming up everywhere on that. Yeah, but that's actually one best large flower in 3 shows, which is it's not your usual large flower. It's not big and ruffly.
But it's not quite unusual form either.
No, yeah, it's definitely a large flower. No curving and twisting and everything else. And that's Tater Tim. Yet another one of Tim Harrington's pseudonyms when he's writing. Tator, that's the way he likes to spell it.
Here's one that you don't have much left of.
No, that's Discreet. It sold out within about 15 minutes of me launching the site. I was from a couple years ago. I launched it for sale on my website, and I mean, it was literally 15 minutes, and I'd sold out of the 20 or so I had. And this is next one here. This is Anime, and this is named for Ann Cobb. This one at the convention in Atlanta got the best. It was the best small flowered seedling at the convention there. And I've got quite a bit of it. It's been a pretty popular one. It's fun. It's a small. Scapes are a little shorter than normal, obviously. Like we keep saying that, but it really is true. And this one is Tender as a Night. This is one of my wife's flowers.
That water droplet kind of shows how velvety it is. It just kind of rests right there.
Yeah. And we went to this is my wife's flower, which she decided she was going to take it to a show about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And she said, well, I think I'm going to try for the best seedling and maybe an achievement medal. So she takes 4 scapes, puts her 3 best ones in the achievement medal because she wants to make sure she really gets that, puts her 4th best one in the seedling class. Now at this show, there also happens to be plants from myself, seedlings from myself and Tim Harrington, Heather Harrington, and I don't think Jan Joyner had any of her, but there were probably 50 or 60 seedlings there.
And she had some stiff competition.
Very stiff competition, and a lot of, I think there were 8 hybridizers there. And with her one entry, which was the 4th best one she had, she won the best seedling. And right after that, we had a meeting and voted her out of the club. So we just can't have things like this going on. It's just not right.
It seems like she was welcomed right back into the club 5 minutes later.
Oh, she was. She was. And beyond the pale, always just a beautiful flower.
And it is so pale.
Yeah. And achievement medal on that one. It's fun. Yeah, it's one that when you see it in the garden, it is just beautiful.
It's delicate. It's soft. It's white enough that it's a palate cleanser with everything else that might be blooming around. It's really pretty.
And this right here is Dietmar's Wisdom. This is one of Dominique's again. I don't know, she keeps getting these really good ones. This one is an amazing flower. It's been growing pretty much in all the zones across the country. We've got a lot of it. It's beautiful branching, beautiful flower. She's gotten, I think, best small flower 3 times with this one, or 3 or 4, I can't remember. But it's a great show flower, consistent, lots of branching, beautiful display of the flowers. That's what I like. I love the wide spaced branching.
That's on one scape there.
I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it just top branched. But if it's gonna have a lot of branches, it better be widely spaced so that the flowers are not bunched together. I mean, you can see this one has 3 flowers open, and there's a lot of space in between each one. That's a goal of ours. When we get them, if they get too bunched together, we just, even if it has, 50 buds on it, we'll throw it away. And
it might be pretty, but
yeah,
standards. We have standards.
That's the plan anyway. And here's a little bit more of it on the end. I put it all on the end so when we were having the convention tour here, everybody would see it, and I would get extra points from the wife for displaying her flower properly. You got to do that.
Well, we already highlighted the giant patch of it in the back,
Yeah,
so
it's pretty good.
people are definitely seeing that one today.
And this one I just decided, it's called Now That's Orange because that's kind of what I said every time I saw it. It said, now that's orange. And in a good year, this one will have 50 buds on a scape.
And that is more of a soft orange as opposed to the gold orange that we see a lot.
It's a different color. It's hard to describe. This is QE3, named for Elizabeth Trotter. She likes the pink flowers. This one is typically a good show flower. It's gotten best UF a lot of times, but in general, you can see the scapes are short, and that's, again, I'm going to keep apologizing for it, but the weather does play a part when you're growing plants.
Since they grow outside.
Yeah, we can't change that. This is Playful Minx. Not sure who it's named for, but anybody I want to on a given day.
You'll find
somebody.
Named for,
yeah, depends on who it is and who I want to pick on.
John Culpa's watching. Maybe it's named after John Culpa.
And this is one we call Jenny. It's 867-5309. That's Jenny's phone number, for these who don't know it. Typically, it's down in the foliage this year. This can often be one of the largest plants in the garden. The scapes are typically 35 to 40 inches tall.
Wow.
And 10-way branching on this one is not unheard of. And again, it's widely spaced enough that they don't do anything. It's really hard to see. It's kind of down the foliage, but same type of thing. And this is an older one here. This is I Suppose. This is, probably I hybridized this thing back in the, mid 2000s. People kept coming over to the house and they would see it. And they said, are you going to register it? And I kept saying, I suppose. And eventually I did, and that's how it got its name. So I suppose, I guess it will.
That works, but I mentioned palette cleansers and near whites. This is a little more near white.
Yeah, this is Ice Lightning. This will be coming out in a few years. It's a little bit of a slow grower. That's why it's still here. But I've been hybridizing for white spiders and UFs for a long time. And typically, I didn't do it this year, but typically I do about 200 seeds of crosses with white spiders and UFs. And I take my whitest one and with that has a decent scape and cross them together. And I've been doing that forever, and they're getting whiter and whiter. And when the sun hits this one for a few minutes, it'll bleach out to pure white.
Oh boy!
So it's overcast, which is great for pictures. But if you see this one, after an hour or two of sun, it's blindingly white. It glows.
On the camera here, it's pretty darn white.
Yeah.
It's pretty white.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of pale other color in there. That's all that's left of Monkey Boy, which is a sibling to Sebastian on steroids. The nice thing about it is it carries a lot of the genetics, and it's very, very fertile, where Sebastian on steroids is not. So I've used this a lot in hybridizing to get the shape and wild nature of Sebastian on steroids, which I can't get. This is an old one, Screaming Pink Twister. This one, I think I planted the seeds, this one probably in around 2005. It's been around for a while.
A couple years?
Yeah, a few years. Well, Wildman George, I planted the seeds for that probably in 1985.
Oh boy.
And that was before I was in AHS, and I used to grow it, and I'd get the clump would get too big, and I'd dig it up and throw it away.
Oh man.
And I did that for about 20 years before I introduced it. So I threw away a huge amount of Wildman George. This is Lone Stranger. One of them you have to see in the garden. The pictures look nice, but when you see it in the garden, it's a tall and majestic flower, and it's pretty wide. It's about probably 9 inches, I would say. And today, that's typical.
And the curve on the petals is just so gentle. It just lays back.
And typically a little bit taller. It's a very tall plant. 40 inches, 48 inches would be not unheard of and kind of typical. So it's real tall and graceful. They don't fall over. You can see none of these are fall over, and we've had quite a bit of rain. And some heavy rains. We had a subtropical system off the shore yesterday. And this is Goophicus.
There's a Polygoophicus.
And it does it, and another one right behind it. Yeah, it does that fairly often. I didn't register it as any percent poly, but it does that. Another one I was named after myself, I guess.
Or whoever randomly is walking through your garden.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a lot of those. A couple of them up in front, and one I claim was named for Jacob.
Yeah, I was offended.
You would not offend. I claimed 3 people have named it. This is Brise, again an older one. When it came out, I completely sold out of it, and I haven't sold any of it. It wasn't put up for sale until again this year. I wanted to make sure I had enough of it. Big, large purple UF, kind of glows.
Is this the one that can't be pronounced?
That's Zizix.
It can't be pronounced.
It can be, yeah, Zizix. That's actually a road in California that I used to drive by every day on the way to graduate school. It's out in the desert, and I just thought it was such a cool name, Zizix Road.
There's the name for anyone who's trying to understand how to spell what he said. But I still say it's not pronounceable. I'll hold to it.
Good. And that's a Method to Madness, another one of my wife's flowers. Nice green throat. She got an achievement medal on that one too. We got a couple achievement medals here and there. I guess you can't see Anti-Dragon Slayer. And this is IB Little, which is a small UF. For those of you hybridizing UFs, it's easy to get them really large, but just try to get one under 4 inches or under 3 inches. It's very difficult. I've been working for, I don't know, again, 20 plus years trying to shrink them down. This is one of them that was on the pathway to that. I've got some now that are true minis that'll be coming out that are true mini UFs. Pretty cool. This one's about 4.5, and it has weird branching. It's not your typical thing. It kind of just puts branches wherever it wants to.
But that makes a really neat display. That's for sure.
Patrick Doodlehead, named after Hans Harrington, because they used to call him Patrick Doodlehead. Apparently that's from SpongeBob SquarePants. I've never watched it myself, but apparently that's some goofy guy in SpongeBob SquarePants, and Heather used to always call him Patrick Doodlehead when he would be a little silly, which little boys tend to be a lot. I'm still pretty much there, so I understand.
Kindred.
And we have a lot of dailies named for Bob, our cat, our girl Bob. And this one right here is It's All About Bob. I've used this one extensively with my hybridizing program because I get this weird shape and explosion of color. I've got it in this shape in probably a dozen different colors with bold eyes. It's pretty cool now. Another achievement medal winner. Got a few of those. Oh, and
that's fancy.
You might have a few more Tim Harringtons.
Oh, here's Tim Harrington. Look at that massive Tim Harrington.
You probably saw those in the back too. So
yeah, we did.
It grows very fast. Typically, all of these in here were single fans when I planted them in September. Same thing as those ones in back. It divides pretty quickly. one of my favorite plants. This one, the first flower that opened up on this one, the first time it bloomed, the first flower ever, I took a picture and sent it around to everybody and I said, I think I got one here. This is it. I've got a good one here. And the yellow midrib's not showing up today. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is a little, I actually think it might have been a little stronger in the back.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I've never seen it when it wasn't yellow. It's not very bright yellow right now.
That's the midrib he's referring to, though.
Yeah, typically it's a bright yellow, and it's really muted today. I'm not sure what's going on. And this is Bob Loves Barbara, another one of the Bob references to the cat. And Barbara was our regional director and good friend. She and Bob were best buddies. And we showed you one earlier. I didn't say the name on it, but it was also Don't Tell Morris. That's Barbara's husband's name. And since Bob was loving Barbara, we didn't want to tell Norris. So usually I have them planted next to each other, so keep things clear and straight, so there's no problems. This is a little twisted. Well, this is one of my breakthrough hybridizing spiders. It has the branching is consistently four-way branching, very, very wide. Often the lateral branches can be a foot or more. And it passes this trait on to most of the things you cross it with. So if you do a cross with this one and put it in there, you're going to get a significant portion that have really nice widely spaced branching, and it's almost always 4 branches. This one's not as wide. This is looks like about 7 inches on the one lateral scape. But it's a good show flower, which is what I like. If I'm going to go to show, no reason to lose.
And with just a gentle breeze, it dances too. So it's got the merit in the garden too.
Yeah, and I got an HM last night. I did remember this one. So I got an honorable mention last night. And this is Psychoceramic, another one I named after myself because I'm a little bit psychoceramic. Again, the scape's a little bit sharp, but it puts on a ridiculous display. I can often get 7 and 8-way branching on it this year. I've got a few of the scapes that are looking pretty good on the branching. But it's just a big yellow spider, and it's been blooming for a long time. It's almost a pain to deadhead. It keeps going so much.
What's this big
There's
pink?
my old dinner plate. This is Too Pink to Think. And I don't know if you saw the clump up in the display bed, but it's
we walked by it, I know, but
yeah, it has 8 or 10 open on the clump. It's amazing, and it's an extra large that actually will meet the definition of extra large. A lot of the people register them as extra large, and I've never seen them bloom past 6 inches. This one actually will hit 6 inches. 7 inches, pretty much typically.
there you go for size reference. Pretty big.
And the first flower on this one, if you can often be 9 inches across. So it's a big old dinner plate, and actually that's probably because it came out of Aaron's dinner plate, which is one of that's Jan's. Anyway, giant 9-inch flat double, and I actually crossed it with Webster's Pink Wonder, which shouldn't have worked because that's a tet and this is a dip, but it worked.
We did see Aaron's dinner plate. It wasn't open very well today, but
Okay.
we definitely saw it yesterday.
Yeah, you saw it yesterday, and it's amazing flower. And here with Ma Petite Chanterelle, when you have a French wife, you get French names. And nice spider. It's just barely beginning to bloom.
Look at all those buds. All of those buds coming on. And there's the bloom that's going to come out of it.
Another achievement medal on that one. And then this is what I like. I want this. I'm going to say it over and over because that's what I've been hybridizing for a long time. You can see the branches. They start low, these laterals. They're widely spaced. It gives a nice graceful appearance, and I can have multiple blooms open in generally without them even touching each other. No crowding. Yeah, I really like that. And I definitely can pick a few show-winning scapes on that one. Today. There's a few of them in there. The 4- and 5-way branching with first flower open. This is another one of Dominique's Wise Blood. This is actually a mini. It's right on the edge. I mean, in fact, if you're taking it to show, you got to make sure you measure it, and it's actually under 3 because occasionally the few will be over 3 inches, but generally they're about 2.88, 2 7/8 inches. Another good show flower. She's won best mini a lot of times with that one.
It's very vibrant red.
And we do. For those, I keep talking about shows. Yes, we go to a lot of shows. I go to 4 or 5 shows a year, and it's very much known for driving up to 5 hours to get to a show, leaving it, 2 o'clock in the morning, and driving all night to get to them. So it's kind of crazy.
That might be a little extreme.
It is, but you work all year for this, and that's what you live for.
That's for sure.
This bed here is all selected seedlings. Some of these in the end have been here for a while. They kind of get better as we go on down the road to some of the really exciting stuff.
Is there a handful that you want to point out?
Yeah, let's go down towards the end there.
Okay, go ahead.
Wanna go ahead?
You go ahead.
Okay.
I'll continue to pan through the garden.
Okay. I'm going to kind of want to pan over something just to see the variety. We can do it. We won't discuss them a lot, but I do a lot. Dominique does a lot with these interesting colors. I think that's actually mine, but she's done some of these fun stuff. Sometimes it's nice to just look at the interesting colors. I love the color on this thing. It's just kind of, I don't know. For some reason, it reminds me of an apple. I don't know why, but it's just
kind of the blush of an apple.
Yeah, it's just kind of pretty.
Yeah, because these seedlings are a little bit older, there's a lot of blooms on each little clump here.
Yeah, and these are the ones, again, that have been selected, out of my 1,000. They come over into this bed and get a chance to grow and prove themselves and see what they are. So these are pretty good. Oh, we got a nice poly bloom there today. That one. I love my UFs and my doubles.
The unusual part of the unusual form, huh?
The more unusual, the better. I mean, again, I want them to be different. I don't want them to be looking like everything else that's out there.
So just, you got to know how tall that is.
That's probably...
This monster here
Oh,
is
yeah.
48.
I'll stand next to it. So
And Scott is 6'2", so
in my dreams, yeah.
Scott's not that tall, but that is still a very tall monster scape.
Okay.
And look how low the first branch is.
That's about what, 2.5 feet below the top.
That is insane.
So it's starting to branch. Yeah, that's what we like. I'm gonna let you come down a little bit. I'm gonna need to talk to her for a bit.
Okay.
And I'll be right back. The ones I want to show you are down here a little bit.
All right,
With the ones
sounds
on
good. Welcome to all the recent people who have joined. We're at Scott Elliott's garden. Scott Elliott, the current president of the National Society, for those who aren't familiar. This is his garden where he hybridizes mostly and prepares plants to be introduced and sold out on the market. A lot of them are highly coveted all across the country. And we are currently looking at a bed of seedlings. Scott stepped away, Lori, but I will pass along your greetings. These are introductions, and you can see how massively planted they are. Ready for sales, and these are all the seedlings.
Okay.
Lori Hankinson wanted to say hi.
Hi, Lori. So you can see, it's an eclectic mix. Very interesting stuff. The colors on that purple one back there, I don't even, they're kind of interesting. I kept that because it was just it's kind of showing up. You can see the spots on it and stripes.
Yeah.
I wasn't hybridizing for that. It just happened, and I said, I'm keeping that. We can show the back of this one. This one right here is one of Dominique's. You're not here in the garden, but it's up for a junior citation. We got a lot of the garden judges looking at it, which has been a lot of fun. You can see the branching on it. So
oh goodness!
It's hard to see. Yeah, it's hard to show it completely, but it's pretty good, and it's cool flower. Lots of stuff going on. Hopefully the judges will like it, and if so, that'll be her first one, which will be exciting.
Such a variety just in this little patch alone.
As you can see, I mean, to me, I get just as excited about seeing the scape as I do about the flower sometimes. I saw someone else posted that on Facebook this morning that they were just as happy looking at the foliage and the scape, and and I come out here, and yeah, I mean, I'm getting a lot of pleasure just looking at that. It's just beautiful, and then I see it coming up again. And, again, this is the goal, and this a lot of years of doing this to get the low branching started out and going on up. You still have to have a pretty flower on it, but if you get the pretty flower and put it on a nicer scape, it's a bonus, and that's what we're trying to do.
Definitely helps.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
nice
you see, here's a wild one, but again, look at the scapes there. I figure it takes just as much effort to grow one that has 12 buds as one that has 25 or 30, and might as well get the one that has a lot.
Yeah, you can enjoy it a lot longer.
Yes, again, here's one of my favorite ones in the garden. It's a little past peak, but this one actually got best in show as a seedling last year. And for the judges in the garden, and no one at home, we're not even going to show you the seedling number, because if you're a garden judge, you can't vote for this unless you're here. But this one's up for a junior citation here in the garden, and don't even show them the seedling number. I don't want to be cheating on it.
So for anyone who's not a garden judge, as a junior citation, it requires garden judges to view it here and see all the merits, but it's also to kind of say that, yeah, this is unique, this is different, this is up and coming, and this is something we want to have out in the world of daylilies. So
we can zoom if you want to try to zoom in. Again, we don't need them to see the numbers.
oh, we'll walk around.
Okay, we can walk through the middle on those two.
I did have to dip though, because the top of the screen was showing the big flags.
It's no big deal. I'm just trying not to.
Well, but they're still impressive flowers. They're ones you're excited about, so
I'll let you.
we will show them,
I'll let
but
you
we'll
go in there
just
and
try to
show both of those.
and try not to break any scapes.
Well, if you do, we've got more.
So we'll start off with the further one here. And again, this is a flower that Scott is really excited about.
Yeah, a lot of you probably saw it on Facebook. It was pretty popular there. It's a beautiful pink in the eye, and the scapes are really nice. I mean, it's got pretty much everything you want on it.
Let's see if we can show off one scape. I don't know how legible that is through the camera, but still pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's just a pretty flower. It's one of the prettier flowers in the garden, just the colors of it, especially with that pink. It's kind of a soft, I don't know, what do you call it? Soft apricot orange, really soft, and then the pink eye and big, wide pink eye.
Yeah, it's very, very obvious as you see it. Then this yellow, this would be a small, right?
Yeah, that'd probably be small. It's over 3 inches, but less than 4.5. It's probably about 3 1/4 to 3.5 inches.
But look at all the buds. Look at all those buds. That is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. That's the joys for me, of growing dailies is the seedlings and getting the new ones. A lot of times by the time I've got them registered and for sale, I'm kind of tired of them, ready for them to go out of the garden. There's a few of them I've just sold out because I've already seen that thing for 7 years. I'm done with it. I want to go out and see the brand new one in the morning at 4:30 a.m. with my flashlight. That's what I want.
4:30 a.m.
Yeah, about 4.5 to 6.5 hours before you get up.
At least.
At least. And then wherever I want to go, I've got some people I gotta go.
Are there any clumps or in the display bed you would like to point out that you didn't show me already?
I might want to look at just the too pink to think one because it's just pretty impressive.
Okay.
When you consider its dinner plate size, and I know you went around it, so you've seen my friends over there, especially Darth and Ghost. I do really like Tittles here. This is a mini, and again, it's past peak on it, but it's still got a lot of blooms.
Yeah, if that's past peak, holy cow.
That's past peak. 3 or 4 days ago, we pulled 52 flowers off of this little clump. And
that's
again,
a lot.
Yeah, the thing I like about it, it's a cute little flower, and the scapes are typically very, very straight and well branched. And every time I've taken it to show, it's gotten at least the best mini and has actually won best in show. So it's hard to dislike a plant like that. A little more Darth deciduous. For some reason this year earlier when it was cooler, it was blooming quite a bit redder, and I know that when on the iPhone especially, it picks up a lot more red magenta than is actually here. It's usually darker. Of course, that one is not as dark as usual.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I want to show you.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Because this is that too pink to think we were talking about earlier, and here it is as a clump. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14 flowers open. All of them very, very large.
Yeah. When he says dinner plate.
Yeah, and this is when you're really sad that the convention's not here and there's no voting for the President's Cup. It would have been fun to give it to myself.
The president. It's the President's Cup.
But it's an impressive clump today.
Yeah, that is. That's really pretty.
And you can hardly see the actual plant itself.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice problem to have.
Yeah. Hey, well, I mean, I'll let you go on and narrate if you want. I've got some people that need me to.
Yep, we're going to wrap it up here on live.
Okay.
Before my battery completely dies. But thank you all to have tuned in to watch. Greetings to everyone around the United States and Canada and Argentina and France who have tuned in. We're going to log off here from Scott Elliott's garden in Ellabell, Georgia. And maybe go sit poolside. Who knows? Maybe the sun will come out for us. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.